restless mind you struggle to quiet isn't broken, but misunderstood? What if distraction, forgetfulness, or impulsivity weren't simply flaws to be fixed, but signposts pointing toward deeper truths about connection, childhood, and the way we carry our stories? Could attention itself be less about willpower and more about love, trust, and belonging? Scattered Minds by Gabor Maté. Attention Deficit Disorder, ADD, often reduced to stereotypes of absent-mindedness or hyperactivity, is far more than a medical label. Scattered Minds takes us beneath the surface of symptoms to explore the roots of scattered attention, emotional turbulence, and the pervasive sense of not being fully present. Instead of treating ADD as a genetic defect or a purely chemical imbalance, this book reframes it as a developmental response to early life experiences. It is not about assigning blame, but about uncovering how the mind adapts and how it can heal. Rethinking what ADD really is. ADD isn't just about poor concentration. It's about how the brain organizes experience, regulates emotion, and maintains presence in the world. Common threads include difficulty sustaining focus, especially on things that feel unstimulating. A restless drive toward novelty, often mistaken for laziness or irresponsibility. Emotional sensitivity, feeling too much or too deeply. A sense of inner chaos, as though one's mind is scattering in 1,000 directions. Have you ever felt like your attention works beautifully in moments of passion, but collapses in situations where you're bored or anxious? The myth of purely genetic destiny. A common cultural belief is ADD runs in families, so it must be genetic. But the book challenges this assumption. Yes, ADD traits often appear in multiple generations. But this may reflect not just DNA, but emotional inheritance, patterns of stress, disconnection, and unspoken wounds passed from parent to child. Genes may create vulnerability, but environment lights the fuse. In other words, ADD is less about bad wiring and more about adaptive wiring, the brain protecting itself in an environment where emotional safety felt uncertain. The role of early childhood. The book emphasizes that the mind of a child is shaped not only by what is taught, but by what is felt. When caregivers are stressed, anxious, or emotionally unavailable, even unintentionally, the child's developing brain may adapt by tuning out. This tuning out, initially protective, can become a default setting. Attention scatters, emotions overwhelm, and presence slips away. A powerful idea emerges. ADD is not a disease, it is a defense. If tuning out was once your brain's way of surviving, could it also mean that inside the scatteredness lies a story of resilience? Beyond symptoms, the emotional landscape. ADD is not simply about focus. It's about feelings that often burn too brightly. Emotional patterns often include quick frustration and irritability, heightened sensitivity to rejection or criticism, difficulty managing disappointment, a deep craving for stimulation, love, and validation. These patterns aren't character flaws, they're the echoes of unmet emotional needs from early life. The scattered mind is not a failed mind, it is a mind that learned to scatter when unity felt unsafe. Living with ADD, the day-to-day reality. The book paints a vivid picture of what it feels like to live with scattered attention. Work and school, struggles with deadlines, organization, memory, and boredom. Relationships, misunderstandings, impulsive reactions, or withdrawal when emotions run high. Self-image, feeling lazy, irresponsible, or broken, even when intelligence and creativity shine. Is it possible that what looks like chaos from the outside is actually a hidden form of order, an alternative way of experiencing the world? Healing begins with understanding. The book doesn't offer a quick fix. Instead, it offers a roadmap toward self-compassion and growth. Core paths of healing include 1. Awareness. Understanding where ADD comes from and how it shaped your life. 2. Self-compassion. Moving from self-criticism to recognizing survival strategies. 3. Connection. Building relationships that foster safety, presence, and trust. 4. Structure with flexibility. Creating environments that support focus without crushing creativity. 5. Mind-body practices. Meditation, breathwork, or physical activity that help anchor attention. The emphasis is not on erasing ADD, but on integrating it, learning to work with a scattered mind, not against it. Parenting through the lens of ADD. A particularly moving part of the book explores how parents with ADD can support their children without repeating cycles. Children don't need perfect parents. They need present ones. Recognizing one's own patterns can help break free from guilt or blame. By offering emotional attunement, a parent can help a child's brain develop healthier pathways for attention and regulation. What if the greatest gift a parent could give is not control or discipline, but presence? The creative side of the scattered mind. ADD is often framed as purely a deficit, but the book highlights the unique strengths embedded in the scattered mind. Creativity and originality. The ability to think outside the box. Intense passion when engaged with something meaningful. Sensitivity to subtle emotional cues. The challenge is not to cure ADD, but to channel its gifts while softening its struggles. The bigger picture. Society and stress. The scattered mind does not exist in isolation. It reflects the pressures of the wider culture. Modern life bombards us with information and demands constant productivity. Stress, disconnection, and overstimulation make it harder for attention to function naturally. Healing ADD is not just personal. It's also a collective rethinking of how we live, connect, and raise children. The path forward. The book leaves us with hope. The scattered mind can be understood. Healing is possible, not through shame, but through compassion. Presence is not lost forever. It can be cultivated, moment by moment. ADD is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of learning how to reclaim presence, rediscover wholeness, and live with greater gentleness toward oneself. So, is a scattered mind truly a disorder? Or could it be a hidden story of survival waiting to be heard? If focus is less about forcing attention and more about finding safety, then what might happen when we stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What happened to me?" And perhaps the real question for us at Bit Books is this. In a world that pulls our minds in every direction, how might we learn to gather ourselves and finally come home to presence?